Hi, we are with Mr. Subrahmanyam Pulipaka. He is the CEO of National Solar Energy Federation of India. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Your first thoughts about Vietnam and a solar destination?
Well, like I told just in my speech, Indian solar market is suffocating with the price tariff today. So Vietnam is a very, I would say, attractive and lucrative market for solar, especially at the price tariff that the electricity is there. Many Indian companies who are obviously part of our federation are looking forward to invest in solar projects in Vietnam.
Do you think it would be in distribution or equipment or putting a base in Vietnam?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Actually, when it comes to equipment, we are importing solar panels from Vietnam because recently there is Indian government imposed safeguard duty on Chinese modules. So we had very few alternatives, out of which Vietnam was one of the best. So we are trying to import modules from Vietnam. On the other hand, companies are also willing to set up large-scale plants. Sterling and Wilson is one of the company which is trying to set up around $200 million worth project, which will be giving jobs to more than 10 to 15,000 people in the next 6 years. So it's both way around. We'll be setting up factories there, we'll be setting up plants there, and we'll also be importing material to address the need of Indian market also.
Look East, Act East, how does it define solar energy?
Well, it's a very high time that we need to look east and act east because India's solar journey so far has been only to west. It's only with China we started looking east. But there are more valuable lessons to learn from east than west, and it's vice versa because India's solar journey has been so fast and so, I would say, intensive that Vietnam's solar goals are also in line with India's ambitions. So it will be very counterproductive to Vietnam to also learn from India's solar journey. And obviously, India should emphasize and focus more on the eastern part to source its materials from. One, based on the economics of scale, that cost is cheaper. And second, also on the reliability and geopolitical scenario.
Renewable energy in India and Vietnam, how are they similar or different?
When it comes to similarities, the energy mix, both of us are emerging economies. So there are significant hydro and thermal plants, which was also the case of India. So completely getting rid of them is not a one-day job. So the evolution should happen in phase-wise manner. So there I see a lot of similarities between India and Vietnam. But the difference, not only with Vietnam but in other countries, is India's scale. We will be the largest solar installation market in next 4 years. So that is a scale with which no country can be compared to. But however, being from same colonial fathers, we have inherited same infrastructure. So that is something where we can learn lessons from each other on how to integrate renewables.
Do you see Vietnam to have a one-stop business for solar? Get into one window and get into a business of solar, or do you see some policy hassles over there?
Well, surprisingly, Vietnam's policy is so stable in terms of solar. They have a very immense clarity on how to get things done. So that is something that Indian industry is very much happy to accommodate. Regarding one-stop place, I think the market will be so lucrative that Vietnam should automatically start this one-stop window, one window clearance to make sure things are done. Because one thing is Indian companies bring experience into Vietnam installing large-scale plants. Vietnam's plan is to 12 gigawatt by next 15 years, and India installs 8 gigawatt every year. So this is an experience that is more valuable. So the faster the one window clearance is, the better it is for both countries.
Do you think Vietnam will be a competition to India in the future of solar and renewable energies?
As a matter of fact, Vietnam is already a competitor for us in manufacturing. Somehow we have missed the solar manufacturing bus a couple of decades back. So we are still trying to compete with Vietnam in manufacturing segment. But in terms of industry ecosystem and installation, the scale is something that we should look at. It's not an apple-to-apple comparison. We can't call Vietnam as a competitor because the scale at which things happen in India is far more higher than it can happen in any part of the world.
Future of India and Vietnam in the solar business?
It's very bright, literally and figuratively. Most of the Indian companies are very much looking forward to invest in Vietnam and also trying to import from Vietnam. So I think it's a very win-win situation for both countries. And I see not very far from today, solar will be the largest FDI solar from India will be largest FDI in Vietnam.
So you think that India will put in investment in Vietnam for the solar?
Yeah, for solar projects, yes.
And that will be manufacturing or the project basis?
It will be project based because manufacturing we are almost competing with them. So maybe if we do manufacturing, we'll be more than happy. But utility scale project implementation, I think India will never miss the Vietnam opportunity.
There is elections going on in our country. Future policy on solar, what do you expect from the solar?
See, as a meaningful and reasonable democracy, whatever targets we have set, I don't think any government, be it the same or new government comes, there will be any difference. There must be some internal policy corrections, which as a federation our job is to work closely with policy makers and advocate policy that is in the interest of our industry members. So it will be interesting to see how the policy corrections will be there, if at all they are, but we are prepared for it and we don't expect any surprises also in terms of policy corrections because a framework has already been laid out. It's just a matter of how to implement the mechanism to execute it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.